Hello, trumpet players. This is the third video in our Trumpet Culture series. And in this video, we're going to talk about how to become more connected to your overall culture, your family's culture. Before we get into this, I want to give you a visualization that I used to give my students all the time. I still do sometimes, but this culture thing has kind of replaced it. In the old days, we were talking about when you should practice, when you shouldn't practice. And I think that the little visualization I used to use back then kind of helps us put things into perspective here. Let's say you went to two concerts, two different musicians, and the first musician gave a pretty good concert, stands up there, tells you about the music, tells you this song is my favorite song, and it uses this scale, I used this composition technique when I wrote it, and you know, when we were rehearsing it, it had these qualities and those qualities. Real interesting stuff, right? And everything was about the music. Everything, to the smallest detail, was about the music. Now, you leave that concert, 2 days later you go to another concert. Maybe this concert, the music is as good, maybe not as good, who cares, right? At this second concert, instead of being all about the music, the performer starts off by saying, "Last year my father died. And in the last months of his life, I went to be with him to take care of him. And during that time, I had time to ask him questions and explore his past and ask for his advice and really get to know him in a way that I just never did before. And I'm so glad that I spent that time with him before he passed away." Now, these songs that I've chosen here are to communicate, in a musical sense, the experience I had with my father those last few months of his life. And then as the concert progresses, he tells the audience why he chose this song and what it had to do with his father, why he chose that song, what it had to do with his father. Which of those two concerts are you going to walk away from having been more touched? Which one of those concerts is going to grab your heart? Is it going to be the one where it was all about the music? Or is it going to be about the one where you felt like someone really cared? Right? I have never given this little visualization. Why is that word not coming out right? Visualization. I've never given this visualization to anybody that ever said, "Oh, I would have rather preferred to go to the All About the Music concert." Now, that's not exactly the way I've always told it, but in this context, it's the same visualization. I just represented it a little differently this time. Because in this case, we're not talking about whether you should practice or not practice, but you can see how this goes to the question, should you practice all the time? There are times when other stuff is more important. So in this video, what we're going to talk about is how to Now remember, I don't teach you this stuff unless I think it's going to make your trumpet playing better. Because I have a line I don't cross. I'm not here to be your shrink. I'm not here to be your guidance counselor, your financial advice guru, heaven forbid. I'm here only to teach you trumpet. But I am convinced today that if all you care about is trumpet, then you won't do so well. I think the public likes to look at those people who are absolutely sold out to the trumpet and venerate them, exalt them, tell everybody how wonderful they are. And then we see that we want to be part of that. It's actually not good. It doesn't help us. It actually hurts us. Even if we only look at it, the music from a practical sense, even if we're only looking at it practically, when you put all your marbles in that jar, all your eggs in that basket, your life begins to fall apart. There's a funny album that one of my jazz teachers, I only had one jazz teacher, my jazz teacher Kurt Warren had an album in the 80s and he called it Jazz Ruined My Life. And it's funny, right? It's funny, but it's not funny. We don't want this is Vladimir. We're gonna have to change her name though because we figured out she's a she. We have now 5 feral cats that we take care of. Anyway, kind of interesting that she would hop into my lap on this video, right? Not music is not the most important thing in your life. Trumpet is not the most important thing in your life. And if you make trumpet the first and most important thing, then your life will start to fall apart. And just from a practical, a very, very practical sense, in the end, you're going to be lonely, you're going to be broke, you're going to be sick. There's a whole bunch of bad things that go with that. I call it selling your soul to the devil, because when you boil it down for what it is, that's what it is. So, let's get to the topic. I don't normally stretch it out that long, but I want you to see how I see this. I was teaching this thing about when you should practice, when you shouldn't practice, long before I was teaching about the culture. And in fact, you could probably say that this thing that I teach about when you should practice and when you shouldn't practice, this thing that I teach this way probably led to my opinion about the culture, right? It probably led to what I'm teaching you here now. So let me get into this. How do you get connected to your culture? And I'm going to say, remember, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. This is extremely anecdotal, and it's only in the context of what I think would make your music better. And the first rule I'm going to give you is never put trumpet above family. And you know what? When I was thinking about what I was going to say in this video, I know that a bunch of you, I'm thinking about, the younger ones, because young students tend to, I'm not saying everybody, but young students tend to have negative opinions of their own family. Maybe you think your family's stuck up, or maybe you think your family is backwards, or low class, or, maybe you think your family's racist. Or maybe you think your family's too woke. Whatever it is you have negative about your family, it's not bad enough for you to cut yourself off from the wisdom and the knowledge. This is what we're talking about, right? This is why the family stuff is so important. Um, if you cut yourself off from your family, you cut yourself off from a extremely valuable source of wisdom and knowledge. And if you think you don't need those two things to be successful in life, to be happy in life, you need to take a step back and reevaluate what you think is success and what you think is happiness. Because there is no such thing as either of those things without knowledge and without the wisdom to use that knowledge. And there is no institution on this earth wise enough or knowledgeable enough to replace your family. Pause for effect, right? There is no institution on this planet knowledgeable enough and wise enough to replace your family. That said, some of us don't have families. So what's next? That's when you get involved with your religious institutions. Now, a lot of people say, well, right, that's, those people are backwards or whatever. They're stuck up, they're hypocrites. I've heard all of it. Once again, those institutions have been around for a long, long time. It doesn't matter what little untruths you see on the surface. Those untruths, those falsehoods, if you want to call them falsehoods, do not erase the value. They do not negate the value of the culture. Oh, bugs! Look. I had a beetle crawling on my neck. Oh, probably from picking the cat up. They're outdoor cats. So yes, there's nothing in this world that can replace an institution that's been around for thousands of years. That you can. I'm sorry. We live in a world today that thinks that some brilliant people today can somehow replace all of that. Really? You can't be that brilliant. There's nobody in this world that could possibly be that brilliant. You know what? For that matter, I have a big problem with certain ideals and philosophies, right? I have a big problem with people investing themselves into shallow philosophies, right? Stuff that's not been around long enough to be tested and tried. And so there was I don't want to badmouth any kind of thought, right? But there are they call it a closed philosophy, which means it's just that one person. Anything beyond what that one person says or did or wanted or thought was right or wrong is not even considered because it's a closed philosophy. Well, who would want to have anything to do with that? Why would anybody want to have anything to do with that? Why choose that? Which, it's like, the term eye candy? This is like brain candy. They tell you stuff that's real persuasive, right? So that you get involved with that. But the why would you choose something like that that's only been around for 50 years, so to speak, right? I'm just being hypothetical. Let's say this philosophy's been around 50 years. Why would you choose that over Christianity or Judaism or Islam or Buddhism? Why would you do that? That's like if we can use culture as a metaphor for no, if we can use a living body as a metaphor for cultural life, that's like saying I want to be an infant. No, even worse than an infant. I want to be still back in the womb. Not tried and true. How many generations in 50 years? That's 2 generations, basically. And if it's a closed philosophy, it means you don't even get the benefit of the second generation. Why are you even interested in that? The wisdom and the knowledge that flows from the culture is so much greater than anything you could get from one person's mind. I don't care if the person is Einstein, and most of this stuff doesn't even come from Einstein type people. These aren't necessarily brilliant. What they are is good, charismatic evangelists that get people to think their way because they're so like, you know, charismatic. And that's just not a good thing. It's not good. Not when you have as an option something that goes back. You know, I'm a Christian, and I believe that Christianity, for my perspective, is that Christianity, I would never go with another religion, I guess is what I'm saying. Because I have a personal relationship with Christ. But that said, let's say that wasn't an option. And yet I'm still who I am. I would then, if I couldn't be Christian, because let's say that Christianity hypothetically didn't even exist, I would then choose to be one of these others, knowing what I know now. I would either be Buddhist or Jewish or, you know, I don't want to get too detailed into that, but what I'm saying is that I recognize that this is more valuable. And what do I mean by more valuable? I recognize that this, by being part of a culture, the wisdom and the knowledge that I will receive from that far outweighs any gripes I have about that religion. Right now we're talking about religion, right? We've passed the family part, and we're going to get now into the religion part of it. Religion is part of the culture. So, how do we engage with the culture? So I said for the family, never put family lower than your trumpet. Never. That means sometimes you're not going to practice because family has to come first. I can tell you the day my son was born, I didn't practice. The day I got married to my wife, I didn't practice. There are times when it's not appropriate. And this is what I was saying earlier. I know I'm jumping around here. This is what I was saying earlier. If you choose to practice on your wedding day, now there is one exception, but if you choose to practice on your wedding day, that will be with your marriage forever. That will mark your marriage. You'll be somebody who has already established that your trumpet playing is more important than your relationship with your wife. And tell me how that's going to help your playing. What did you get out of that? A lot of people will say, well, I just got a half hour. Well, what did you get out of that half hour of practice on your wedding day that was so important? So and so that's the first step, right? Don't ever put your family beneath your trumpet playing. So then with the religious stuff, be active in your religion. And so since this is a talk about trumpet, make your trumpet part of that cultural investment. And I know some religions don't have trumpet, but let's say, for example, if you're a trumpet player and you're Jewish, then why would you not volunteer to do the I think it's called Rosh Hashanah or something like that, when they have the shofar, right? Why would you not learn that and do that? I've actually gotten paid to do that. I should not have to. There's how many Jewish trumpet players are in town? There's got to be enough to go around, you would think. And I'm not saying you shouldn't get paid. Don't get me wrong. I'm not Jewish, right? So, but it doesn't have to be necessarily, in Christian church, we actually have trumpet in the services sometimes. So that's, but I'm not necessarily talking about exactly that. What about playing at weddings? What about offering your services to celebrate whatever the culture at your church or whatever is going to celebrate? Isn't that more important than your next important gig at the club or whatever? When you relate your music to your culture that way, it helps, first of all, connect you to your audience. I know a lot of people are going to reject what I'm saying right now. That's all right. I know it's very controversial, but I just can't. Part of the reason why I feel this way is because I've made these mistakes before. I don't regret what I've done because I've stopped living that way, but I'll tell you this: if I hadn't stopped living that way and went to my deathbed still putting trumpet above my family and still putting trumpet above my culture, I would feel guilty. I would have regret. The whole trumpet thing is just stupid compared to real life. So yes, I would, if I was any other religion, I would make sure that somehow my trumpet playing was being offered to that religion, to that culture surrounding that religion, surrounding my family. And for that matter, when my family gets married, offer my services then too. And it doesn't necessarily have to be your trumpet playing that you offer. You can offer also other stuff. You can offer to be the sound man, offer to, right, stuff that's musically related. Maybe your religion doesn't use trumpet, but maybe you can be part of the choir for that matter, right? or on the side play another instrument that is used in your culture. And see, when you do it like that, instead of being rebellious against your own culture, I think this is what rebellion against your culture is like. It's like strangling yourself. When you go against your own culture, you're cutting off your own lifeblood. And I said, I know I'm all over the map on this, and I apologize. But I mentioned in one of the previous videos that yes, there are things wrong. Every culture has stuff that they believe that's not true. Sometimes you don't do anything about that because who cares? The example I gave was of Christmas and Thanksgiving. Who cares? It's still part of our culture, my culture. And those times when it does matter, do something about it. Don't try to destroy your culture. Try to help things be better. You will make far greater improvement to the world. I know so many of you want to change the world, right? You will make far greater improvement to the world by improving your own culture with your own participation than to destroy your own culture. And how do you destroy your own culture? By not being part of it. That's how you destroy it. Not being part of your culture is basically strangling not just yourself, but your children, and your children's children, and your children's children's children. Because you're separating them from that flow of wisdom and that flow of knowledge. And if you don't think that's going to affect your trumpet playing, and that's why I'm saying, we want to bring our trumpet playing into that. If you want, and this thought just came to me, right? Now I feel like I got bugs all over me. This thought just came to me. In the Christian religion, we talk about putting something on the altar. Bring your trumpet and put it on the altar. And that's sort of what I'm talking about right now. Bring your trumpet and offer it to your culture. And watch what doesn't come back to you. You'll get some of the most loyal fans. This is not the reason you should do it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting you should do this so you can get fans. What else that you might get? Someone from your culture or your family might come to you and say, do you know what? I've got a great idea for you. I have this great idea for you. I'm just making this up, right? But this is the kind of thing that can happen if you bring your trumpet to the culture. Someone who has the ability to do this stuff is going to say, hey, look, I've got this opportunity. I want to have a festival, and I want your band to be the one that heads it up. Right? Because you're part of the culture, that's on their mind. If you're not part of the culture, you have to do all of this from scratch. Not only do you have to figure out, we'll talk about these two things in the next two videos, which will be kind of similar to this, but more specific to music. Not only are you going to cut yourself off and have to reinvent the wheel with the music, with the trumpet, but you will also cut yourself off with the business. Cut yourself off with the more professional aspects of what we do. You're going to have to figure, not only are you going to have to figure all of that out yourself, but you're also going to have to fight the current that's going against you because you decided to go against it. I think today it's so common, and I think it's because of um, the way universities and the media and stuff like that. I think it's so common for people to hate their own culture. I know Mexicans that hate to be Mexican. I know, um, well, obviously, uh, white people that hate to be white people. Um, and I guess I shouldn't be listing all of these because I'll get in trouble. But you get my point, right? There's this self-loathing and self-hatred that comes with this new way of living, and it's suffocating the people. It has cut off the wisdom. You know, Wikipedia has nothing on what your parents can give to you. Wikipedia has nothing that you're compared to what your church can give to you in terms of this foundation with the knowledge and the wisdom. Okay, I think I'm going on too far. I just feel like I need to stress this so much because it's such a problem today. You are doing nobody any favors by hating your own culture. You are ruining the lives of your children. And the destruction of everything good that has come up to you will be on your shoulders. And to bring it back to the trumpet, if you think that's not going to impact your trumpet playing, you don't know anything about this stuff. The trumpet playing can only be as good as in terms of quality, right? If you have a terrible life, the quality of your trumpet playing is going to be terrible. If you have and what I mean by that, I don't mean that that you won't have good performances. I mean, you might have one good performance, one great performance, and then your candle will flicker out because you can't breathe. Culturally speaking, you're being suffocated. You know what? While we're on this, let me close with this. We live in a time where most of what we see in front of our eyes, most of what we hear in our ears, is not real. We live a life that is saturated with fakeness. I've been calling it fakeness. This is something that God told me about in 2016. Our lives are saturated in what's not true. So just to give you a musical example, when you listen to a recording, that recording never existed. The music on that recording never never existed. They do all kinds of stuff. Even my recordings, right? It's clear. I try to make it obvious that I'm playing all the parts. Now that's not possible. The reverb I put on there is not real. And yes, sometimes, I don't do it often, sometimes what you see my fingerings pushing down are not what I was playing. The sound that you hear and what you see, those weren't the same recordings. Sometimes. My method is different from other people. They do the recording first and then they air horn the trumpet. I don't do it that way. I'd say 98% of what's on my channel, when you see me playing, that's the sound you're hearing. I did not record it separately and then do visuals afterwards, okay? But most of the people on YouTube, they do it that way. They record it first and then they make a video of themselves playing over their recording. It's not real. And when things are not real, there's destruction involved with that. Think of the damage, right? So what I do with the fakeness of the recordings, I tell my students, because most students know that the models on the magazine covers are airbrushed. In my opinion, the music you listen to in recordings today is the equivalent, the musical equivalent of airbrushing models. And we know that airbrushing models damages the mental state of women. We know this. That's not questionable. I believe to a similar extent that these fake recordings damage the musicians who listen to them. It's damaging. It's harmful. It's because what they're listening to, they don't consider. Even when they know consciously that it's not real, when they listen to it, they're not considering how not real it is. And in the same exact way, there are fake cultures out there. What do I mean by fake? Well, what is fake music? What is fake fake magazine covers? Something that somebody created artificially. There are artificially created cultures. And where does that come from, by the way? The artificially created culture comes from commercialism. They even tell you should create a culture around your brand. I'm not making this up. That's a artificial culture. So I'm self-employed, right? How many times has the advice I've gotten been that I should create a culture around my products and my trumpet playing? How many times? I can't count the number of times I've heard this. That's an artificial culture. They're making this artificial culture so they can take your money. It's an evil, evil practice, and it's extremely destructive. It's an evil practice, and it's extremely destructive. And I'm warning you that if you participate in any of these cultures, it will rob you of your other culture. You can't have both. It'll rob you from that wisdom and that knowledge that should be coming to you through your family, through your church, through your community. And it's not just commercial stuff too. There are also political things that people are politics is just another first form of commercialism. They operate the same way. They're like this. So people try to create a culture around their political beliefs. And it's a fake culture. And it's a fake culture that will cause you harm. How do you know it's fake? The world already had culture before these people tried to manipulate you. So you go back to your family. You go back to the culture of your family. If you don't have a family, you become involved with your church or your religious institution. And if you don't have that, then you become an active member of your community. The grassroots of your community, not the fake stuff that's been created to manipulate you. I remember reading a book. It was a great book. I didn't agree with all of it. I think it was called something like How to Die Poor or something like that. And the basis of the book was that um, everybody's out to get something from you. They want three things. I think it was three things. They want your money. They want your time. And they want your work. I think there was one more. They want your opinion or something like that. Anyway, it's not always just about money. Sometimes it's your vote. And what this guy says is better to not have any of that stuff. Whatever it is they're offering to and taking your money for, taking your time, you don't need any of that. What you need is your family. You know, when I talk to friends about your culture, I have a tendency to leave out the friends part. And I think the reason for that is because you can be friendly and make friends with anyone. I've got literally thousands of friends. Literally thousands of friends. I don't consider all of them part of my culture. So I guess that's why I don't consider the friends when I talk about this stuff. So in other words, your pastor at your church is more important to you, or the deacon, or the elders at your church are more important than your friends are. Because the elders at your church are going to pass on that wisdom and knowledge that was passed on to them. And we live in a society today that doesn't look for this. So the people who are in those positions are starving. Their purpose is not being fulfilled. Because nobody, the society today has been manipulated into going to the commercial culture instead for their help. Instead of asking the guy at church, hey, can I talk to you for a second? I've got this problem. These people are starving for this because that's how the culture works. I don't even care what culture we're talking about. That's how it works. That's how the wisdom is passed down from generation to generation. And if you're at that what would appear to be the penultimate generation, because the next generation has said, we've had it. We don't want to be part of this culture. Basically, essentially killing that culture. That means those people who are in that penultimate position are going to be unfulfilled in their lives. You know, people, they want to destroy everything. They don't even have a clue how bad they're making it. And that bothers me. Maybe that's why I'm going on about this. I'm on a tirade. But this stuff is important, especially now. So be thinking about this. Be thinking about this. There's nothing bad enough that your culture could ever do that would erase. In fact, I will go as far as to say, because I like to think that Cultures and people are sort of the same thing. The way a person grows and becomes more wise is by making mistakes. When a culture makes mistakes and gets it wrong, and you don't destroy the culture as a punishment, that culture ends up being more wise and more knowledgeable and more of an asset to the world. But if you try to destroy it, now there are other people who try to destroy cultures as well, because they know that if they conquer the culture, they conquer the people. They know people who want more power. They know that if they can conquer a culture, that they can conquer those people. Because without the culture, the people become stupid. They no longer rely on the wisdom and the knowledge that's passed down. They become stupid. They become shallow thinkers. And every person of power knows what you can do with stupid people. All right, I better stop this. If you've got questions or comments, leave them below. Or you can join us for the Q and A. The Q and A's are on Fridays. All right, I've got 2 more of these videos and then we're done for the year. I'm recording these in August, okay? So I've been telling people I want to get these recordings done so that I have 4 solid months of practicing. So I figured if I give up 2 weeks of my life in exchange for 4 months of practice, that's a good deal. So, all right, so that's where I'm at. I'm so glad to have only 2 of these left. All right, God bless you. We'll see you on that next video.